Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you all for taking the time out of your day to join us for our live event. My name is Mark Hudson, CEO of Squirrel 365. Today I'm joined by my colleague, Donald McCormick, our Chief Strategy Officer. Now, we're recording this live event and it will be available to you all later today. Please feel free to use the chat poll to introduce yourself and your organisation and ask any questions. We'd love to know more about your use of Squirrel and how you're helping use it within your organisation. So let's get started. Our product team have been busy on our latest release, which is full of new features, customer enhancements, and of course, bug fixes. And we're sure it's going to deliver something for everyone. Now, some new teasers features include new components. We've got a bumper crop of new components inside the Squirrel 365 Designer that help building apps even easier, including a date picker, progress bar, and also a metric tile. Got some new connectors as well, new data connectors. We're connecting to the Ninox cloud database. So we have read, create, and update connectors that let you access and store data in this very popular no-code cloud database. And we've also integrated with Zapier. Those who are not familiar with Zapier, Zapier allows you to connect your work applications and your work systems and will allow you to connect Squirrel and your Squirrel apps to over 3,700 other systems with the new Zapier trigger. All this and more. But first, some award news. And we're going to start with some customer award news. So it's my great pleasure to announce that a couple of weeks ago at the annual IBIS Infosol BI Dashboard Awards, that two of our customers who use Squirrel to deliver their dashboard apps were recognised for the work that they've done. So I'd like to formally congratulate Courtney Culver and Ziv Basili from Salesforce. Ziv won the award for Most Valuable Dashboard for his amazing and the team's amazing ROI value calculator that really helps the Salesforce account managers help position the value of moving to the Salesforce cloud. For those of you who've not seen Ziv's work, it is available as a webinar on our website that you can go off and access directly. And finally, the Limitless Business Intelligence Award went to Future Metrics and Bill Strauss, our customer Bill Strauss, who won his award for a very innovative dashboard that helps organizations and countries and governments understand how they can drive towards negative CO2 emissions. And he actually was proud enough a couple of weeks ago to host an event also with Bill on this. So if you're interested in that, you can see that on our website as well. So congratulations to Ziv, to Courtney and the Salesforce team, and to Bill Strauss and all the team at Future Metrics. Right then, Donald, over to you. Actually, no, I've got some more news for everybody. Had you there. As well as our customers winning awards, I am delighted to announce that we have found out today that Squirrel 365 is the winner of the Financial Modeling Innovation of the Year Award at the 2021 Financial Modeling Summit. So thank you to all our customers who voted for Squirrel 365 over the last few days. The vote was open to a public vote, and we're delighted to have received this wonderful accolade. Yeah, the product team and everyone involved were really happy to hear the news when that came through this morning, and we're going to be no doubt talking about it on social media and LinkedIn and Facebook and whatever over the coming days and weeks. So thank you all who voted for us. Donald, now the floor really is yours. Over to you.
Thank you, Mark. And so yeah, easy to forget. It was very late breaking news, but good to be able to add it in here. So yeah, what we're going to do here is cover off the 1.8 new features, and I've got the PowerPoint here, which will list everything. I won't spend that much time in the PowerPoint. I will send the PowerPoint out with the recording, so you can just as a quick reference guide. But most of what we'll do is in the product, actually showing you all this new stuff in action. And there's quite a lot we have here today. So and I'll break it down into terms of the different plans. Obviously, we have plans, the cloud plans, and the other plans from before the cloud was released. But the first section of this, in fact, the majority of this applies to all plans. I'll let you know later when things that only apply to the cloud plans. So in the update for everyone here, we have 2 enhanced components, 5 completely new components. Mark alluded to a number of those. three improvements in the designer, which are, it's small but actually make a big difference at points. Over 20 significant fixes. Obviously, we fix a lot of lower level issues that people have reported that maybe don't affect everybody, but there are 20 sort of significant fixes which, and I'll list those out, and you can see if you can find ones that apply to you or have been sort of getting in your way. And also, we have actually the slide slightly wrong. The two new connections, as we'll see later, are for the cloud plans. They're two new cloud connectors, and so those two new connections don't, as the title, don't apply to all plans, they just apply to the cloud plans, but we'll look at those a little later. So we have two enhanced components, and one is the scorecard component, which now has a fixed row height capability, and the image component, which you can now get unsplash stock images, and also you can now maintain the aspect ratio for an image. And let me just show you what those mean. If I come in and open up my yeah, there we go. This is my little project here to do this. So the first one I said was the scorecard being changed, and this came from some work we were doing with Ziv, who Mark just talked about. And some of the things that Ziv does, one of the things that Ziv does with the product is allows people to input depending on different criteria in the dashboard, and so input controls appear over scorecards. So he uses dynamic visibility to control things, and unfortunately on different browsers the scorecard was scaling differently. Very hard for us to control the way that it worked before, and so Ziv's overlay components weren't lining up and really looked a bit of a mess. And so what we've done, as I said earlier, is we added this in the body row styling. We enabled this fixed row height, which, as well as solving the problem that Ziv had for overlays, it also means you can actually now take much more explicit control of the height of this, and crucially for many people, make it smaller. So the way it worked before was that if I come into column formatting and actually go to this first column and I start to say I'm going to make the font bigger, then you see it makes this font bigger, but then the whole table resizes according to the biggest font in the row, and it takes the font height and adds some padding, and you've got no other control over the excuse me, over the text. You just get to say what the font height is, and everything else goes there. And specifically, there was no way of getting it smaller or reducing this padding beneath it if you wanted a more constrained table. So what we've done, as I said, is added this enable fixed row height in here. And you see, as soon as I've done that, that's a smaller, a narrower row table than you've ever been able to do with Squirrel before. And we can make that bigger or smaller, and that will stay fixed in different browsers, and that was what solved Ziv's problem, because then it doesn't sort of expand or contract in different browsers. But as I say, for everybody else, the main thing that might be useful there is to be able to get these more compressed views. If you want a table that's just sort of not taking up too much room, then that will help there. So that's quite a nice new little extra for the scorecard there. And then the second enhanced component is the image component. And the first thing here is we have added, so obviously before you've been able to get an image from a URL, so a dynamic image from the web, or from a file that you load into your project, but we can now use the Unsplash library. Now, Unsplash is a library of stock images, which is available online, and we just connected it up to the designer here. So for example, this is all different distances from the Earth. So I can type in Earth as a search term here, and it brings back dynamically images that I might want. So I might want to use this one here, and hey presto, we've got an image that I can use. If I want to change it, I'd just maybe go for something else. There was one I liked more earlier on. I can't. That's the moon. Show some more. Yeah, that was the one. There we go. It's a nice sort of stock image of the Earth, and I can resize it. So very easy to bring images into the project and liven it up with them. There are hundreds and hundreds of those, so there's probably an image that you can use in your projects. Now, the other thing I said was this maintain aspect ratio, and that doesn't just apply to Unsplash images, it applies to all images. Before, if you resize, you'll notice if I resize this, I pull it down, it gets bigger. It keeps the ratio of height and width. So if I wasn't doing that, and then I did this, you see it all gets, that doesn't really look like the Earth anymore. So now you can click on this, which keeps the the aspect ratio so the image doesn't become distorted. Something just makes images much easier to manipulate and keep as they were originally intended by whoever created the image in the first place. So they're they're relatively small changes, but actually quite interesting ones, depending on to visually change what you do in your projects. So those are the enhanced components, but the new components, of which there are more, are these ones here: a date picker, a toggle button, a progress bar, an icon component, and, as Mark mentioned earlier, a metric tile. And rather than talk about them here, again, we'll go back into the product, and I'm going to open my recent thing and new component start. So I won't save that there. So I've got just a blank project, and because it's based this around the date picker, I've got some dates here, just the beginning date, which is the beginning of the year. I'm going to input the current date, and then some date arithmetic to say how many days into the year, how many left in the year, and how many days in the year, and all that sort of stuff. And so what I'm going to do is just the first thing I'm going to add in here is this is all going to be about dates. So I want something to indicate that to my users, and what we can do with that, use to do that, is the new icon component. So I can come in here and say I'm going to add an icon in there. Again, it's a library of components from online that I can search. And so if I want calendar here, there I get a calendar icon. So there are many. I mean, there are many. There are, as it says here, 236 icons in here, and you can choose the one you want. And as I say, I'm going to use the calendar one here. There. Now, things you can do with this, you can change its color. So I can maybe make it, maybe make that blue, and that color obviously can be bound and be dynamic. I can make it thicker and thinner, and like everything else, I can make it dynamically visible or not. So there are many uses for this, maybe just as extra visual cues for things. You could use the color to highlight things. You could turn them on and off for alerts. So there's lots you could do with them, but there's a nice set of images you can, or icons you can now add to your project easily and quickly. And then the next one we're going to look at is the toggle button. And so we've got an out-of-the-box toggle button. Obviously, you've been able to do this before. In fact, there's a video on our website how you do it with images and all this sort of stuff. But actually, just to make it easier, this toggle switch there, and it basically flips between one state and the other. And so what I can do here is say its on value is on and its off value is off. Those can be changed and bound to the spreadsheet. I'm going to leave it at on and off, and I'm just going to put the destination in this toggle cell there. And obviously, one of the things you might want to toggle are images on and off, or dynamic input, dynamic control over images. So I'm just going to say that when the toggle is on, I'm going to display that there. So now if I debug this, obviously goes on and off depending on the toggle. Very easy to use toggle. In fact, I probably want to have that on by default, so default status is on. So now then I can turn it off. So I'm not sure I would want to do that with that particular icon, but it gives you a flavor for what we're doing here, what the toggle button can be used for. Then the centerpiece of all this, given its dates, is the date picker. So we've got this new excuse me, date picker, and that just allows the user to easily choose a date. So I'm going to input the value into the yellow square, the yellow cell here, change its the input format there, and having done that, I can now, you'll notice that when I click on this, it pops up, and that's to the 2nd of the 2nd. I can go to the 10th, or I can go maybe to the end of the year, the 26th of June, or the middle of the year, 26th of June. So there's lots of, just easy for an end user to pick a particular date. The other way you can use this is, rather than having it pop up, you can actually have it inline, so it's there all the time. So then if I run this, I can just pick a date. Probably takes up a little too much real estate for most uses. So most time you'll use it probably as a pop-up, but there it's just easy to be able to do that, to pick a date. So the idea here is that we're picking a date, and then we want to display to the user some key information, and that key information is days remaining. And so key information metrics, we've now got this metric tile up in the data visualizations. So I add that on there, and it's just an easy way to quickly highlight some important information. And the main things I can do here is I can set the value, and the value here is going to be the number of days remaining in the year, which is just that one in there. And then the title is going to be just this days remaining here. I can add a subtitle, and the subtitle is going to be, yes, number of days left in the year, just to confirm what that is. And so I've got, and then I've got a trend icon here, and that trend icon can be various icon sets here. I'll do the up down arrow one. Well, it could be, I could do the tick and cross, the up arrows like that. So there are a number of these. I'll use these bulky arrows. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a trend. And see, this cell here is giving me if it's, I've got the, if it's a third of the way through the year, then make it -1. If it's more than a third, make it more than 2/3, make it +1, and if it's in between, then make it 0. So basically, this trend indicator is triggered here by this value, and it's depending on whether it's positive, negative, or 0. So here I've got many days remaining in the year, so it's green. But if I come and run this, and then say I'm going to go maybe out right to the end of the year, there it's gone red and pointing down because I've only got 8 days left in the year. Not that's necessarily a bad thing, but it shows you how you might use this. And then the final thing here is to look at the progress bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a text label here just so we know what the user knows what this, and so this is days into the year. So the one above is days remaining in the year. This is going to be days into the year. I'll put a title on there like that. Oh, not into the year, like that. And then again, up in data visualization, we have the progress bar, and this just allows us easily to show the progress of a particular indicator. And again, what I'm going to do is bind that to, this is the number of days into the year, which is currently 32. And I can give it a maximum of the number of days in the year, which is 365. So there now, as you see, if I come in here, so it's only 32 days into the year, but if I go here, I click that, then you'll see it's updated to there. Or if I go right to the end of the year, then you'll see it's many more days into the year. So just a nice little progress bar. I can turn things on and off, so I can have the value showing or not showing, and things like that. So, but just a quick and easy way. Again, you could have done this with images and overlays and sort of like widths and all that sort of stuff, but it just makes it really really easy to do. So those are the new components we've added: the toggle switch, the icon, the date picker, the metric tile, and the progress bar. All sort of really simple to use and add quite a lot of flexibility into projects. So if we come back to here, the next thing is designer improvements. And there are 3 of these. And let me just show you the binding tooltips, new number format, and publishing flow, the publishing flow to the publishing options through to the publishing dialog. Let me show you those in action. So the first one is the binding. So sometimes it can be quite hard to see a binding, either because the binding box is the property box is too small, or on some screens actually the font's quite the color of the font's quite hard to read. So what happens now, if I go over a bound value, it pops up what that is. Now, one of the things we wanted to get into 1.8 but didn't, but we will put it in 1.9, is the ability then, see, I can't click on that tooltip, but in 1.9 you will also be able to click on that, and that will take the sheet, that will take you to that range in the sheet, so you can quickly get to the range that something is bound to. So this is a stepping stone on the way to that, but it definitely gives you things that are easier to see. And as I say, if I put 100 in here and then bind that opacity to there, then it's now impossible to see. But now I can get it and say, yeah, no, it's cell 1 G2. So I cut sheet 1 G2. So I can start to see those things there, which is a good step forward. Now the second thing, if I I don't want to do that there. If I say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not been possible before to add a comma separator as a 1000 separator into this number, which didn't really matter before because it was just a spreadsheet. But with the advent of the data table, which inherits its formats from the spreadsheet a couple of releases ago, it's more important now to be able to do that. So we've added this new number format, which allows you to add that. I just get rid of those zeros there. So I can now add the comma in there, and if I bring that into a data table, it'll honor that. So it's just another way of, it's one of the key ways of formatting a number which was missing in the spreadsheet, which people found made the data table less than completely, less useful than it otherwise could be. So that's the second designer improvement. The third one is an area here. If I click on the canvas, I need to click on a clear bit of the canvas. And obviously, if I click on a component, I get the components property sheet. But if I click on a clear piece of canvas, then I get the canvas options in terms of sort of the background, its opacity, and the background image. But I also get these publishing options. And what I can do is, if I change these here, so I'll call this my 1.8 project. I'll make the background blue. And you could put maybe an expiry date on it, put that into the future, add a password like that, and maybe change the color of the loading indicators. These are all things you've been able to set before but this now sets this for this project, because before what would happen is if I wanted to republish a project, then all of those I'd have to re-enter in the publish dialog. So in here, when I go here, you'll see that all of those have now come through. My 1.8 project, the blue, the red, the password, the expiry date. So now if I want to, when I publish this, if I want to republish it, I don't have to reset all of those options. I can just click publish again because they're now stored in that area in the property sheet for that particular project. So it's a much easier flow. You don't have to keep sort of renaming your projects. If you do change things in the property in the publish, then they fall back to coming into here. So it's a two-way street, if you like. But it's but the advice would be to manage these here, so you've got control and you know what's happening for your for particular projects. So those are the three designer improvements we have. And then I said there were many fixes. So we've added some key fixes. I'll leave you to see if there's any of the read down them and see if there's any that you would come across. There was the one that I found annoying is alignment. If you grouped objects and tried to align them, then they went all over the place, and actually it would be hard to get back to where you were. So alignment in groups is now working properly. There's a couple of crashes in there, which actually were quite hard. The guys did a good job. I think it was in 1.6 and 1.7 to really get rid of many of the crashes. So most of the crashes now are really quite obscure. So even though we fixed them, you probably wouldn't have come off them. Particularly as images can crash was a strange edge one. But we're really trying to fix it so that it doesn't crash. Although you obviously now you have autosave, which was a great improvement to save work if it did crash. There was a case where Data Mover was running out of control in particular circumstances and hanging projects. So just lots of things under the covers to well, one that you might have noticed is sometimes charts that were hidden and unhidden became were drawn. It used to be it would show you the title down this vertically and nothing else. So that's also been fixed in 1.8. So some key fixes there. So that's the if you like, the core set of changes that affect everyone who uses it, every plan, whether it's cloud, any of the three cloud plans or the non-cloud plans. The next two are specific to the cloud because they're both, as we'll see, both very cloud-centric capabilities. And there are two new connections. One is the Ninox connection, which some of you may have seen before. We talked about this in the 1.7 release because it was in preview in 1.7, but is now generally available as part of 1.8. And Zapier, which it opens up a huge number of doors for us, as you'll see in a minute. We'll come on to that a bit in a bit. Let's look at the Ninox one first. So Ninox is essentially an online cloud database, and we have. Let me just come here and show you. Yeah, so this is I've signed up for Ninox.com, and I've got a little database in here, and it's a database of registrations. This is people who maybe have come to my website, and I want a form that they can put their name and email address and add it to this database. So there are already 6 people have come in here, and I want to manage this using using a Squirrel project. And so what I need to do there, actually, I need to. If you just close your eyes while I get my API key. There, don't probably. Oh no, I meant to copy it, not add a new one. There we go. Get rid of that. Now, so what I can do is if I come back to Squirrel, what I'm going to do is open a new one of these here, which is going to be the Ninox start. I won't save that one. So we're going to have a table here that shows me who's already registered. And then here is going to be the ability to add a new registration in. Now, obviously, if you're giving it to end users, you probably maybe wouldn't want them to see this, but you get the idea. It shows both both of the capabilities here. And so what I do is I just come on here and say the first thing I want to do is to read data out of that Ninox database. And so I'm going to add a read connector, put that key that I just added there. And then you see if I come back to Ninox, I'm in, it's my team is called my team one. Oh, and then the database is called demo and the table is called registration. So I just choose those from here, my team one, demo, and registrations. And they say, well, where do you want that to be? And I want it to appear down here like that. And I won't add the column headers because they're already there in the spreadsheet. And currently I'm going to refresh that when it's loaded up. So if I run this, then you see I've run it and that's loaded this data in dynamically from Ninox. So you see there's this strange one that's obviously test data that I was using earlier. So if I go back to Ninox and come in here, that we don't want that one there. So if I just delete that row and then I come back here and rerun it, you see it's gone. So it's dynamic, genuinely dynamically coming from that underlying Ninox cloud database. And actually, as a bit of a shout out for Ninox, it's a fairly fully featured sort of relational style database in the cloud. It's a really nice cloud capability. So if you are looking for that sort of thing, I would urge you to have a look at it. It is good. Now, what we want to do now, so and talking about the plans, so that read connector for the cloud plans is available. It's not available in Presenter, but it's available in Creator and Builder. So if you're on a Creator plan, you can use it to read data in. The other two connectors are only available in the Builder plan because they're more about sort of building apps and writing back to databases. Because what we want to be able to do here is to, on a submit button, is to write back to the database. So if I'm going to get, that's going to be get registrations. And you see there are two. There's the Ninox read, which you just used, and then there's create, which creates a new row in the database, and update, which updates a row in the database. And we're just going to use the create. Now, create and update, as I say, are only available in the Builder plan, and we're going to sort of add a registration there. So we now got one of those. So again, I have to put my API key in there. And then we're going to say it's my team, and I'm going to go to the demo database and registrations. But now what I need to do is to be able to insert something in here. And so what I'm going to insert, and the way you insert it is a little help here. You give it the column names you want to insert and the values. So I'm going to insert a row from here where I've selected D1 to E2, so it's those 4 cells. And obviously this up here writes its data into D2 and that into E2. So that's writing. So when I enter those in, then that will run what those two will fill out those. Then we're going to activate the Ninox write connector, so to add a registration. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to do this submit button is going to take this toggle and write it into here. And so this is a standard. Let me just mark that as yellow so I know what we're doing. Come on, there we go. That standard technique here, by where this cell is, if this one is 0, then this is 1. If this one is 1, then this is 0. So it just toggles between the two. So every time I press this button, it will change the value of the trigger. And we want to use that in order to add that registration. So we're not going to obviously do this on load because it won't have any data in it, but I'm just going to do that when that is triggered there. And so what we'll do is, if we go and look at that, I've got that, and I can say Donald at me.com. So now, there we go. So if I now click on that, that should now trigger. Now it hasn't updated there. We'll see that in a minute. But hopefully, if I go to my database, see, it's added it into the database there. So I've genuinely written it back, but it's not come through here because this read connector is only it should be registrations, is only being triggered at load time. So what we want to do is to take this add a registration and say we can update. When it actually does the update, it will give you a response in here. And then what we want to do is these cells will change. This is going to be the timestamp. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say that get registrations will also be triggered. So get all the registrations back when that cell changes. And so now what we can do is if I run in here, see I've got that Donald one now, but if I type Mark, and so Mark at sq.com and submit, then there, it immediately does that. So what that's done is it submitted it. This timestamp has been updated by the database, so we now know to trigger that update in there, so I can see, and I can type other ones there, and hey presto, that's in there. And if I go back to the sheet, we see these are being added dynamics. Dynamic read write into an underlying database, which is really nice. Now, one other thing that I do here is I've got a data mover which clears out, and this is just a nice little extra you can do, a couple of nice little extras you can do here. And so the data mover is going to take this source here, which is just 2 blank cells, and move it into the name and the data we've entered, and we're triggering that based on this response. Which means that you'll notice, see, if I come in here and I type something and I update it, and then I do that, then when I submit, it's submitted, but these have been reset back. So you now know empty, ready for a new one. So it's prompting the user to realize that they've got that. And then the final thing I do here, which I really like this, because it's simple, but again, really helps the user to understand what's going on, is what I've got is I've got a couple of rules for whether what they've typed in is okay as a name. And I've said, if the length is greater than 4, then it's okay. So it's 1, otherwise it's 0. And is the email okay? I've sort of said if I can find an @ in it, then it's okay as an email. Now, those you'd probably want to be a little more sophisticated. For a name, you might want to search for a space and make sure it was a sensible length. Here, I might want to also check that something after the @ but you can do whatever you want in terms of Excel formulas. That's the great power of Squirrel, is you've got all the logic there to be able to do that. And then if that is just that times that. So if those are both 1, then this will be 1. If either of those is 0, then that's 0. So all okay is only okay when they're both okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this button, depending on this okay, so it's going to be disabled when that value is 0, which is really nice, because what happens is I can do some error checking. So the user can't push submit now because they haven't entered anything. And if I type just a@bbb.com, it's still not there because the A is not a good name. If I go to, why is it not working? There we go. Yes, so there we have it, and if I submit it, it goes back. It's added that in, and it's now gone back to being able to ready for entry. But until I've entered something sensible, it doesn't do it. So just some nice little features there to round that off. But the main thing was all about that. Read and write capability to the Ninox database. And remember, the read capability is in Creator and Builder, but the write capability is only in the Builder plan. So that's Ninox. It's great fun working with it. So I would urge you to have a look. And they do a 30-day, I think a 14 or a 30-day free trial of the database, so you can use it and have a go and see how you think. Now the second one here is Zapier, and Zapier is for those of you that don't know what Zapier is, let me show you. Zapier is basically a cloud connectivity platform. It allows you to essentially wire up different cloud services, and Squirrel is now one of the services that you can use to wire up. So there are over, as it says here, there are like over 3,000 apps you can do things, whether it be writing rows to Google Sheets, sparking off an email, putting an event in a Google Calendar, posting to the Slack platform, sort of just there. I mean, there's hundreds of them you can explore for yourself. But what this now allows us to do with the Zapier connection in Squirrel, if we come back to Squirrel, is to trigger actions for Zapier. So let me just open the final one of these, which is the Google Zapier. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm recreating. So it's exactly the same as the other one, only the connections are not Ninox. They're to Google Sheets. Now, for a while, we've had the capability to read from a Google Sheet. And the Google Sheet that I'm reading from is this one here. And again, it's the same sort of thing. I've got all these sort of things in here. Maybe let's add another one so you know what's going on. Donald, so you can see that it's Donald and Donald at me.com, so make it different from other ones, so make sure it's not coming from anywhere else. And so having just added that, I can come in here, and what I've done is I've got this read connector, which reads into A1 to A26, which is those cells there, when it loads up, and it gets it from this Google spreadsheet. So if I come into debug here, wait, and this is slower than, is it not? No, it's not. Yeah, there we go. So it's a little slower than the Linux is much faster. The Google Sheets offers up its data less quickly. But you see, there's the one I just typed into that Google Sheet. So, but that's 2 or 3 releases we've had that capability. What we haven't been able to do is to write back to that Google Sheet. And one of the things that Zapier allows us to do is that functionality, because as I said, Zapier allows you to take actions in other systems. And one of the actions is the ability to write to a Google Sheet. So there, we've got zap a row to Google Sheets. And the way that I do that is I specify the data to zap. And that's just going to be very similar from that we did for Linux. It's just a name and email that's entered by these two here. And then what you do is you give it a name and then you register it, and that registers it with the Squirrel cloud, and it gives you a key. And what you do with that key is you then go to Zapier. So what I've got, if I look in back to my, if I've got my zaps here, I'm in Zapier, and what I did, this zap a row to Google Sheets is a zap, and it's all you'll create this all point and click on the web. So there's no it's all no code sort of thing, and this trigger the Squirrel, set up the trigger, you'll see that key there is the Squirrel key. So that when you press the button or whatever it is in Squirrel, that the Squirrel then sends that key to Zapier, which then knows that this is the action that you're going to trigger. And what you can do is actually, if I come and set up the trigger and refresh the fields, so then what I do with the trust that trigger, I've got 2 values. That's the name and email, and they're coming through because that's the names I gave them here in there. So name and email are coming through from there because I've bound that to the data. And then what I can do is I can say I've got the I now want to create a row based on that. So I can choose what is it. It's going to be Google Sheets. Create a spreadsheet row. Choose the account. So I logged in with my Gmail account to my Google account to do that. And then you set up the action saying this is the sheet, the registrations in sheet 1, and the name I want you to populate from the name coming through from Squirrel and the email from the email coming through, and that's it. So what happens now if I come back here, if I come and run in debug, then I'm sort of Tom at. Well, I've already done Tom at google.com. I can't have that. Who don't I have? Fred, and that's Fred at justso.com. Making it up as I go along. And so then, it's obviously more stringent conditions there. So if I now submit that, then that's sparking the Zapier, and it's then going and you see there, it's read it from there. It's read it back from the Google Sheet. If I go back to the Google Sheet, you'll see that Fred at justso.com has been, so it's full. The Zapier completes the picture. We had read from Google Sheets. We can now write back to them using that. And as I said, there are just so many different things you can do in here. If there's some action you want to take in the cloud, you're going to be pretty sure that it's going to be possible with Zapier. So that opens up a huge range of possibilities. I'm really looking forward to seeing what it is that you all do with that. It's a small incremental step for us, but opens up this wide range of possibilities. One thing to say, Smartsheet, which was in early access before, is still in early access. We have more traction with the Linux stuff, which is why we've taken it to GA. But anyone who's interested in doing the same thing you've just seen me do with Linux in Smartsheet, then you can go and register for early access. It's still in early access if you want to use that. And then one thing I just wanted to say before I close is that so obviously we're broken down here between the cloud and the non-cloud plans. And for those of you who are completely understandably on sort of the plans that are not in the cloud, you're inside your own organization and you're just using it that way, that's absolutely fine. And I want to re-emphasize that that's not going away. You're welcome to stay where you are there, and we will continue to support. And in fact, I just did a quick add up of since we launched the cloud, some of the improvements that have been available to everyone, so i.e. non-cloud plans as well. So this is the autosave, huge time saver, 7 new components, 9 improved components or functions, 6 new functions in the spreadsheet, 20 improvements to spreadsheet functions, 12 designer usability, and over 300 bugs fixed in the last 6 months. And actually every so often I go back and use an old version because I have to to debug something, and it's amazing how much smoother the whole experience of using 1.7 and 1.8 is, even from just 6 months ago. So a lot going on there. But this really, I wanted to put this up to say that you don't have to move to a cloud plan. We are absolutely happy that you stay where you are. If you do want to take advantage of some of the cloud plans, then there's still upgrade options there. Talk to us and we'll work out the best way for you to do that. But because we're releasing more cloud stuff as well, don't think that we're somehow sort of forgetting the people that aren't on cloud plans. You're more than welcome to stay there, and we will support you and continue to add capabilities specific to your use of the product for as long as you want. And with that, I will pass back to Mark and see if there are any questions that have come in.
Thank you, Donald. Excellent presentations. I did tell everybody that the product team had been busy during spring at the start. I don't think that was a lie. Some amazing new features there. I just wanted to run through to start with, before we get into the questions, just some wonderful comments that have been coming in. So a big thank you from Ziv to the product team for the brilliant fix, the fast and brilliant fix. I believe on the data table, was that with the fixed row heights or the scorecard?
The scorecard. It's the score fixed row height on the scorecard. Yeah.
Ziv also goes on to say that he thinks the new icon add-on is very useful. Saves him the time to need to use and manipulate the image component, and loves the toggle switch. That's great that Ziv's using the new features already. John's thanked us for using the UK date, which prompted me to ask a question.
Yes.
Can we format it in US date time on the calendar picker, on the date picker?
You can. Great, yes.
I thought so. Is there any plans, question firstly from Ziv, are there any plans to add an icon stroke picture option to a push button?
Yes, interestingly, there are 2 things we're toying with. I don't know if they'll make 1.9, but certainly they're relatively high up the list. One is to have images on a push button, and the other one is to add a similar sort of toggle, an option to toggle on a picture, but on a push button as well. Because sometimes, as you saw with my submit there, I want that submit button. I don't want a toggle switch to push a data into the database. I want a push button to take an action, but essentially it's a toggle. It's toggling that value to spark an action. So yeah, images on push buttons, and an easier way to toggle without having to write that if 1.0 otherwise 1 formula. Both, as I say, I'm not sure they'll make 1.9, but they're certainly both high-ish up our list of possibilities.
Great stuff. John's asked, is Ninox included in Zapier? Just curious.
That's a good question. Yes, I think you can interact with Ninox from Zapier, but as you saw, it's a multi-step. So you're going Squirrel to Zapier to Ninox. It'll be a slower and less slick integration than the direct integration we've got with Ninox. So with the Ninox connectors. So I think you could do it that route as well, but it would be better to use the Ninox connectors.
And just a couple more excellent comments. Again, Ziv, thank you. Ziv says Salesforce moved to a cloud plan and have experienced faster loading times and overall performance in their apps, which is great to hear. Great job on version 1.8, very useful add-ons, and was able to export to Google Sheet using Zapier. Very powerful capability, but asked a question around exporting around 200 records was rather slow. Is there a way to improve this? And coupled with that, he also asked, how fast is the data access using a Ninox cloud database?
So they're all good questions. So let me get there. So yeah, I don't think there's any way. The way that we interact with Ninox, with sort of Zapier, is row by row. So you would have to send the 200 rows, and that is going to have some latency on it. I'll look and see if there's a way we could do bulk updates, but I'm not sure there is. On the second question, I haven't really tested Ninox in sort of like really big data mode, but it seems fast. I mean, faster than, as you saw there, it loads very quickly and it writes back quickly. And the other good thing about the Ninox thing is that Zapier is a sort of a fire and forget. You fire it, and the only way you can tell if it's actually happened is to go into Zapier. It doesn't give you anything back. And so, but with Ninox, it does give you a back. It says how many rows it successfully updated and or created, and a timestamp, which is what I was using to trigger those events. And so you get slicker integration with the Ninox because it's a direct connection, and you're going to get better performance as well. And I say I haven't stretched it to any sort of limit and done big data volumes. But everything that I've used has been as fast as I could want.
And just on that, I know from personal experience of using Zapier that the free plan, and then when you go on to paid plans, you get more real-time access through the Zapier cloud. So that's one of the things on the free plan is they throttle you a little bit. So some of the performance that you may be seeing maybe on the different plan type that you might be on Zapier. And also, we're looking to partner closely with Ninox, our friends in Germany. Anybody who's interested in Ninox, please reach out to me because we can introduce you to the team in Germany. And as Donald said, it's a great piece of cloud technology that we're very excited about, and adds huge value to Squirrel and some of the apps that you guys are all building. And finally, just one more comment from John. Thank you, John. Just so you know, he says, from personal experience, Squirrel people are really helpful. Well, I agree with that. Our support is second to none. So if you do have any issues, our support and product team are here pretty much around the clock to help. So please reach out to us, support@squirrel365.io. Keep the new features coming. This product will only continue to get better and better as it has been doing from your experiences of the product and your new ideas and new features and enhancements. So please feel free to reach out regarding that as well. Just leaves me to thank you all for joining us today. The recording will be available shortly, and to thank Donald for his time and wonderful demos of the new features, and a huge shout out to the Squirrel 365 award-winning product team who have just done a stunning job on 1.8. We hope you all enjoy it, and just let you know, 1.9 might just be around the corner after summer, so fingers crossed to see what's in there as well. Good evening and a good day, everyone. Have a great time. Thank you.
Yep.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.